but the people are just so nice, so welcoming, and the food's unreal, the weather's unreal. Flew in a tiny little Cessna plane, which I don't know if you've ever done, like tiny one, no. 30 people on board. Awful. I can only imagine what a private jet's like, because it must be horrendous. You could tell he was one of the most famous people in the world as well. Just people, when they walked past him, were like, everybody was like, fuck. And the bloke taps him on the shoulder, and he's like, do you realise you're sat in the When Harry Met Sally seats? Fingers crossed, unlock the doors, Bozza.
Joe, how you doing, mate? It's great to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm good. I'm not the biggest fan of lockdowns. I haven't got the attention span for it. The ADHD fully kicks in after like 2 hours, so I'm already struggling. We're only 4 days in or 5 days in.
I'm not too bad, man. I was gonna bring up the fact that you're a massive, like, lively character. So yeah, I imagine you might be struggling with this.
Oh, mate, it's horrible. I didn't like the first one, to be honest with you, but it was almost like it had a little novelty factor. To be in the first lockdown, like, oh, you know what, you get to spend a little bit more time in your own thoughts, like doing things you want to do. But wow, that novelty factor's worn off quick. I need to be outside. I need to be meeting people and experiencing new things. I just cannot sit inside by myself. It absolutely does my head in.
Yeah, not too long though, mate. Hopefully December, and then we're back.
Well,
we're back.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Touch it. So before we start talking about travel, I wanted to talk a little bit more about you, give the listeners a little bit insight about perhaps how you started at Football Daily and then the stuff you do at Sky Sports too. How did you start at Football Daily?
So basically, straight out of university, I joined Team Football Daily, or a company called Diagonal View. That was like my first job out of university, which is really, really fortunate, obviously. I'd done jobs before, like, you know, classic pub work, like cleaning toilets, cleaning dishes and stuff, and then working in bars and pubs and stuff when I was 17, 18. But yeah, straight out of uni, my first major job was Football Daily, and I joined Diagonal View, who were a kind of production house, I guess you'd call them, for digital media, writing articles for a website, for the Football Daily website, which is was a thing to behold. Obviously doesn't exist anymore, but it was terrible. It was like sort of gimme sport Bible, you know, that sort of like clickbait rubbish, just to get people enticed via Facebook. Not good, but it did get me a foot in the door at Football Daily. So when the producer of the YouTube channel left, it kind of left the void to fill in terms of video making, and I had the skills to do that from university, where I studied journalism. So I was able to step in and make videos. So obviously back then we were only a small team of like 2, and the channel was called Football Daily, but we made 3 videos a week, which is madness. So yeah, we kind of went about it that way, and that's how I got my break at Football Daily, which is very fortunate, very lucky.
Yeah, massive. So how old were you when you started taking the reins at Football Daily?
Well, I was 21 when I joined, but I would say probably a couple years, so like 22, 23, probably more about the sort of time that I started to actually grow into the role a little bit more, just because, you know, I was so like immature. Like, look back at myself then, I was so immature. Like, some of the things I used to say on camera and stuff, just absolutely awful, just like rubbish opinions for the sake of having an opinion. But yeah, I would say more like 23-ish, probably.
Yeah. Did you always want to be on camera?
Not really. When I was at university, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like being on camera. I don't know why. I just didn't have the confidence to do it, which is like weird to think now, because I love being on camera. But equally, I think it's something that you kind of fall into once maybe, and then you're like, oh, we get a bit of a bug for it. I was kind of interested in written journalism and stuff like that, which obviously now I look back on, I'm like, wow, was I so interested in that? Like, I don't enjoy it very much anymore. I don't really read that many written articles, and I don't think anybody really does, if they're honest. But overall, I'd say it's something I kind of fell into, got lucky with, and then I just got a bit of a bug for it.
Quality, mate, and you're smashing it. And obviously, I know that you now present Saturday Social, your second season on Saturday Social for Sky Sports. That's massive, mate, though, isn't it? That jump to present a linear show on Sky Sports, that must have been huge for you.
That's a crazy opportunity, man. And it's such a privilege to do it every week, to be honest with you. Just, you get to work with so many experienced people in such a tough field to break into, because you get to sit there every week and work with a director who's probably done hundreds of hours of directing of Premier League and Champions League games. You get to work with producers who've worked on Premier League and Champions League games. work with another presenter like Smithy, who's had years of experience in this industry and how he works and how he interviews. I've taken a lot of sort of like interview tips from Smithy because he's really, really good at that. And I think he's probably developed himself, his little style over the last few years, the more he's done. So it's just a privilege to be able to work with those guys every week, really. And it also works so well along with Football Daily because it's a Saturday show, and classically Football Daily is more like Monday to Friday. It's just perfect. So yeah, extremely fortunate, mate.
Yeah, and you've started doing some of the player interviews as well, which I know because a lot of the time I'm the one sieving through the rushes to edit them. What's that been like, going around the country meeting footballers?
Yeah, it's great. It's so much fun. Obviously, I've done it before with Football Daily, but again, I'd say over like the last 18 months, I've started to develop a bit more of my own style. I think when I was at Football Daily doing interviews with players, I look back on them, I'm kind of like, wow, like who am I trying to be? I think it's very easy to watch like other YouTubers at the time or other presenters, and you look at their style and you're like, wow, they're so energetic. They're in people's faces. They're trying to be funny. They're trying to do this, that, and the other. And you almost want to imitate them, which is obviously not the right way to go. But I think it's definitely something you learn the more you do it, that you want to just be yourself and just be natural. And that's the best way to get something out of the other person, because as soon as you try and be young Philly or you try and be Smithy, it doesn't work. It just comes across as inauthentic. And I think that's a real killer for like a lot of presenters. And it's something I've probably only really learned in like the last 18 months. Especially when it comes to interviewing players.
Yeah, quality, mate. Like I say, you're doing brilliantly, and this is just the start.
I appreciate it.
I want to hear all about travel and how travel has helped shape your life, man. So how important is travel to you?
I'd say it's pretty important.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the most important thing in my life just because I feel like I haven't traveled as much as some people my age. Like I never did the whole gap year traveling around like Southeast Asia like some people do. But nevertheless, I say, yeah, super important. I think I've learned a lot culturally. Traveling would be, I'd say, the biggest thing for me as much as anything else, just because coming from Exeter and Devon, not the most culturally diverse place, I think it's fair to say, in the world. Even moving to London was like a big like step for me. So the more you experience travel-wise, I think the more it broadens your horizons, the more sort of cultures and ways of living opens you up to. Because down in Devon, it can be quite a closed environment, and I feel like it's quite an old school view down there. It's quite old school people down there.
Yeah. So was travel a big part of your life when you were growing up?
Yeah, definitely. We always used to go on family holidays. Like once a year, we go on a family holiday. Where places like Turkey and Spain, like classic like family destinations you always used to go to. And also used to go do a lot of camping, which isn't very glamorous. Obviously, I'm sure people on this show have said, oh, these glamorous destinations. But yeah, I used to love going camping, man. That was my number one, camping. I'd rather go on a camping holiday in Cornwall, surfing and like living in the outdoorsy bit than I would at some 5-star glitz and glamour resort in Saint-Tropez. Like it's for me, those were my real best childhood memories is being on a beach in Cornwall with like your family, or in like on Dartmoor by like the rivers and stuff, like camping where it's not very glamorous, but I just think that's the funnest bit. I'm quite like a people person, so I just like being with loads of people. And I found that when you're camping and when you're like all together in a rubbishy little, it's raining and in a tent, that's when like you find like real close friends and stuff like that, rather than being in some glitz and glamour resort.
Yeah, you must love festivals then.
Yeah, I do like festivals, although I'm not the biggest fan of staying at festivals in like tents and stuff. I don't know what it is about it. I like to be able to call a festival, and at the end of the day, either go to a club or go home. Yeah. I like just don't like the idea of being in a bad state at a festival and then being like, oh, I've got to go into a tent and like lie in some grass. It's just not for me.
Yeah, you just never recover. It's like 4 days you just got to write off.
Yeah, exactly. Which I don't mind doing. Like, I just, if I can, I always try and go home.
Yeah, clever move, I think. You mentioned it there about growing up in Devon, and now the fact, obviously, you live in London. Like you said, that must be a massive, massive leap and a cultural change.
Yeah, for sure. Like, Devon is such a closed environment, and Exeter in particular, like, by the time I left, I think I probably knew everybody who lived there. It's that sort of place where everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows everything about everybody as well. So there's like not many secrets in Exeter. When I went to university, I obviously went to Southampton, which was great for me really, because it was kind of middle ground between an Exeter and a London. It's a fairly major city, obviously huge university city, students everywhere. So it's a really nice stepping stone for London, because London's like such a slap in the face, 100 miles an hour, meeting people you've never met before. And Southampton kind of provided that stepping stone for me, because I think if I'd gone straight from Exeter to London, I'd been like, what's going on? And then bottled it. But Southampton was great for that.
Yeah, you've got an energetic personality, which is, I'd say, perhaps more suited to London lifestyle. Would you be able to say which one you prefer between the two? Oh,
London lifestyle for sure. Yeah. Definitely. I found Exeter, particularly past the age of sort of 16, up to 16, I loved it. Don't get me wrong. When it's like outdoorsy and you can like go to parks and woodlands and river walks and stuff like that, wicked. But as soon as you get to sort of 16 to 18 and you start finding like nights out and you start finding a bit more of a social life, Exeter runs out quick, because there's like 2-3 clubs, there's 2-3 bars that everybody goes to. So after 2 years there, at like 17 to like 18 or whatever, you're like, I've done pretty much everything I can do in Exeter in terms of nights out and socializing with everybody. So I just needed a fresh environment, and London is like a different thing every weekend. And I'm quite into sort of like my electronic music and stuff, I guess you'd say. So there's loads to do up here on weekends and nights out. So it's much better for me, London.
You mentioned that you didn't go on a traveling trip after university. Is that something that you wish you did?
No. Like, I know some people, like, that idea of a gap year to like discover themselves or find themselves is like, I suppose it's like crucial for some people, isn't it? Not crucial, but they obviously use it to find themselves, and fair enough. Like that's what some people have got to do, but it was never in my mind. I just wanted to crack on with life, really. I didn't think that traveling was going to help me massively over a long period of time. I kind of thought to myself, well, later in life, I can always go and do traveling. But one of my biggest things is wasting time. Like, I hate wasting time more than anything else. It's probably my biggest bugbear, biggest fear really, is like wasting time, which is why lockdown kills me so much. But I kind of felt like, oh, will I be wasting time? Will I just go over there and then like a week in be like, oh, what am I doing tomorrow? And I hate that thought of like, what am I doing tomorrow? I've got to have something planned or like something to look forward to. So for me, it was just never that big of a deal. Some of my friends did, and they loved it, obviously, and everybody does it, loves it. But for me, it was, let's just crack on.
Do you see yourself doing that in the future though?
Yeah, maybe when I've like settled down with life, or like when I'm a bit older. Like, my parents have just started kind of traveling a little bit more now. They've retired and stuff, and I think they're really enjoying that. So I think that could be something that I do. Don't get me wrong, I love going abroad and going on holidays and trips and stuff like that. But sort of long stint traveling, I think I'll probably do when I'm a little bit older.
Yeah, nice man. Is there a best trip you've ever been on that you could pinpoint?
Best ever trip? It's a really difficult question, isn't it? Because I've been fortunate and so lucky to go on quite a few sort of work ones, but also personal holidays with like Chloe, who's my girlfriend, or my family. Certainly growing up, there was some like great times in Turkey and Cuba. I went to, had an amazing time in Cuba. But probably I would say India was a fantastic trip. Went to Goa with Football Daily with Chris and Adam Templeman. Spent a week out there with the football team, kind of embedded within the football team and taken around by some extremely generous hosts in Goa, and showing the culture and the food and the amazing beaches, and went surfing in Goa. Just generally, I found India to be absolutely magical. Sort of very remote Goa, I would say. It's not like a big city. It's like lots of little villages, but the people are just so nice, so welcoming, and the food's unreal. The weather's unreal. Loved their football. The atmosphere was really good in the stadiums. They obviously went during the, I've forgotten the name of it, but the Colour Festival.
Yes.
I think, is it called Holy Fest?
I don't actually know, to be fair. I should probably know these things.
Yeah, you should actually. Yeah. As the host of the travel podcast, you should know these things. But I think it's called Holy Festival, where they kind of throw paint over each other. Yeah. That was happening at the game we were at. We were very fortunate to see that, and interviewed Virat Kohli when we were out there. He's obviously massive. Might not be a huge name for British sports fans, but probably one of the most famous sportsmen in the world. To be honest with you. massive name in Indian cricket and cricket as a whole. But yeah, I'd say India holds a pretty special place in my heart.
Yeah, I watched that video this morning in preparation and it just looked
Did
crazy.
you?
It looked like you had so much going on.
It was ridiculous. It was so much fun, man. Everything about that trip was fun.
What was the best moment if you had to pinpoint one?
I'd say it was between surfing at a beach in Goa, and then they had like a beach restaurant where you have different types of curries and stuff. That was pretty special. Or the actual game.
Yeah.
Where we went and we were embedded within like the fan group. They have what they would call ultras, I guess, or like they're hardcore fans. We were kind of in there, given free reign, also able to interview Virat in the suites and stuff. It's just amazing. I'd say the game or the surfing.
Yeah, nice. How did you get on at surfing?
I'm not too bad at surfing, to be honest with you. I'm actually all right at surfing. Yeah, I'm no superstar, but I can catch a wave and stay up on a board in a straight line, which is not too bad, I guess. If you were asking me to do like go along the wave and stuff, go underneath barrels and things, I couldn't do it. But if you could ask me just on a foamy board just to catch a bog standard wave, I could probably do it. So it wasn't too bad.
Oh, far better than me, I'm sure. You've obviously traveled quite a lot with your work. I'm just going to list off some. You mentioned Russia, India.
Yeah.
You went to Munich to interview Ian Robin. I watched that whole interview as well. I don't know how you feel about that.
Did you?
Yeah.
I haven't watched that in so long, man. I can't remember. I was probably so nervous in my little Jack Wills shirt.
Yeah, you
really
honestly
sure
look like a different person.
Do I?
Yeah. You've come a long way since then, man.
Well, that's very nice of you to say.
And of course, California for KSI versus Logan Paul.
Yeah.
So is traveling with your job something you really look forward to doing?
Oh, definitely. Any sort of trip like that, I 100% look forward to. If it's somewhere like Russia in particular, I would probably never go to Russia. Like even like LA, I might end up going to LA, girlfriend might want to go to LA or something like that. Russia, very unlikely I'm going to go to somewhere like Sochi. So when we got the opportunity to go to Russia, I've been twice. I went for the Confederations Cup and then I went for the actual World Cup. But in the Confederations one, we were flown out there by the actual Russian tourism board, I think it was. So we were given this sort of view of Russia that I would say is quite not sanitized, but the best you could possibly have almost. It's like staying in nice hotels. We're going to take you on all these trips around Moscow. So we went to Moscow and we were taken out and we did all these activities, trying food and stuff. And then we were taken to sort of like bars and stuff that the locals knew because we fell into with one of the guys who was a local. So I got to experience a bit of like the more authentic side of Moscow, which is great. But it was like Confederations Cup Moscow as well. So it's I've never seen a city so clean. It was just immaculate, absolutely immaculate, amazing. But it's almost felt like, because it was the build up to a World Cup, they'd moved all of the shit out.
Yeah.
It was really weird. I don't know how to put it, but it's almost like they've just picked up anybody who's like maybe homeless or something, just like gone, no. I didn't see like a single homeless person there. Really? I didn't see any chewing gum on the pavements. I didn't see a single bit of litter. And it's like, in real life, these things exist.
Yeah.
Where are they? Which is really weird. And then we one day got a bus to a stadium, I think it was, and we traveled to an outskirts part of Moscow. And then suddenly you were like, okay, here's like the Soviet Union end of Moscow. It's like much different. And then we obviously went from Moscow, flew in a tiny little Cessna plane, which I don't know if you've ever done, like tiny one, 30 people on board. Awful. I can only imagine what a private jet's like, because it must be horrendous. Just bouncing about, got to Sochi, and then Sochi is just ridiculous. I've never experienced something like it. It's got a beach that they've laid out almost like LA, almost like Venice Beach, where they've obviously seen Venice Beach and tried to copy it with the palm trees down there. Yeah. And it was in the build up to the Winter Olympics in Sochi. So they pumped probably billions, hundreds of millions into Sochi. And it's got the beach with the strip down it. And then in the background, it's got the snowy mountains. So it's like really bizarre setting. And we did stuff like, we obviously did like bungee jumping and stuff in Sochi. I got very, very drunk one night in Sochi, wet really badly, and then spent the next day on a bus being sick into a cab that was just pouring through my hands. But I'd say Russia's like a totally unique place that I would never have gone. So that was a classic case of like, thank God for being so lucky with my work.
Yeah, what a trip, and especially to go there for your work. That's everyone's dream. Especially
when you work with your friends, you know what I mean? Like, because Football Daily's like everybody's best mates. So when you go there with your friends, you're just there with your friends. It's like, it doesn't feel like real work.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about KSI versus Logan Paul in California.
Yeah.
Because it's on this day that we're recording a year ago that you interviewed Justin Bieber.
I know. I couldn't believe that. I feel
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. Perfect time. But what a trip. What an absolute honor that was to get out there. Was, again, very, very fortunate that with timing really of that one, because obviously Saturday Social had just started, and Logan Paul KSI gets the Sky box office slot, which is huge for them. And Sky Boxing are obviously incredibly talented team. We've got some amazing people who work there, but maybe didn't have the knowledge of social media that maybe like somebody like you have, I have. Just inherently being a little bit younger, I think, helps there. So I think they saw Saturday Social as a vehicle for social media they could put out there, quite adaptable, have Saturday Social out there in order to promote the boxing a little bit. Then me and Smithy could help out on the ground, pick out YouTubers, interview people, and I kind of got stuck with the. I say stuck with. I got given the like celebrity interview role, which you've obviously done vox popping.
In the past.
Vox popping is not my favourite thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any journalists, or I'm not calling myself a journalist there, but anybody's favourite thing to do. But I think it's even tougher with celebs, because they're like, when you put a camera in a member of the public's face, they're almost intrigued. They're almost like, oh, could this be me on the news? But then when you do it with a celebrity, they're just like, I don't want you to be here. Get out of my face. I don't need this. So the role was quite difficult. But like Justin Bieber interview, obviously LA as a whole is, I would say, an intriguing city. It's not what I expected at all, LA, because obviously when you visualize it, you see the glitz and the glamour and the stars and everything. And then we were obviously staying in downtown LA. And I mean, it's the poverty really shocked me in LA, has to be said. Really, really shocked me, especially the homeless situation there. So sad. Because you've got sort of Beverly Hills, and then you've got like horrendous homelessness. The like of which I've never ever seen before. One day I decided I was just going to take my scooter, because they got the little limes, and just scoot round downtown LA and sort of into like I think it is Soho area, where there's like fashion districts and a few fashion shops, and it's getting there. And on the scooter I was just going past literal streets of tents, like hundreds and hundreds of tents of homeless people, and I'd never seen anything like it before. It makes London's homeless situation pale into insignificance, and obviously London's is so sad and horrendous too. I couldn't believe it, and I'd never really seen that on the TV. And maybe that's my own ignorance, maybe that's just a lack of research, but when I think of LA, I think of like Kim Kardashian, and I think of Hollywood. I don't think of the homelessness situation there. So that really shocked me. So I think LA was a bit of it was both a wake-up call, and also it was like an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah. I wanted to take it back to Justin Bieber, obviously, because I'll make this into a clip and I can turn it into some views.
Yeah.
I want you to give a little bit of an insight into how that interview came about. Like, do you have to go and approach him? Is someone going to grab him for you? Is he up for doing that interview?
Okay, so on the day, it was me and one cameraman. I had one cameraman with me with the task of grabbing people for interviews. So I was going up to, Jake Paul, Mike Malak, Shannon Briggs, whoever was around that I could grab. I was just grabbing them. I was quite nervous about it, because I was worried I wasn't going to remember my questions, and you had to be quite specific with how long it was, because it was being fitted in between rounds of boxing. So it would like lay between round 1 and 3 as promo for the main event. So we obviously knew Justin was going to be there. So he was obviously quite a big pull, and he arrived, and we were in the back bit, and I just saw him, and he was like mucking around with a few of his mates, and like they were, I don't know, it was I think they were playing with the ball or something like that, and it was backstage, and I don't think he was doing any media, because our cameraman was just like, oh, I'll just get a shot of him walking, and I was like, oh, if he's there, you've got to try it. So I just literally got the mic and went up to him. It's just like, look, Justin, can I ask you one question for Sky about the fight? And he was like, no, I don't want to do anything. I was just like, please, really help me out. Just one question. And I think I ended up asking like 3.
Yeah.
You know what? Felt like I've obviously like tried to make it into a bit of a meme with him not being the easiest interview, which he obviously wasn't the easiest interview. You can watch it and see that he was quite hard work, but equally, he didn't have to do that interview, and he was there to have fun with his mates. I think he probably had a couple of drinks. It was nice of him just to say yes. Like, he didn't need to do that for me. He could have just been like, oh, no, fuck off.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to say anything. I can make a meme of him and make a bit of a joke, but equally fair play to Justin just for doing it.
Because he is without doubt one of, what would you say, top 10 most famous people in the world?
Oh, he's got to be up there, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think he's got to be up there. And you could tell he was one of the most famous people in the world as well. Just people, when they walked past him, were like, everybody was like, fuck. So, yeah, he's obviously incredibly famous. I mean, it wasn't exactly the longest interaction, but he was not the easiest interview I've ever had, to be honest with you. His answers were like one word. And when you're quite nervous and he's a superstar and you haven't got that many follow-up questions, you're like, oh, fuck, what am I going to ask next? But yeah, he did it. And at the end of the day, I think that was probably quite a good win to get Justin Bieber on Sky. I don't reckon he did many other medias that day. You
mentioned it there, but do you get nervous with that?
Yeah, so anxious, man, about that sort of stuff. Especially when I'm in an environment I don't know. Like, I know quite a bit about boxing, but not to a football level. Like, if you put me in a football environment, I think I could, even if I had 10 minutes with a player with no prep, I think I could bullshit my way through an interview with a footballer, because I've got probably better knowledge than your average Joe on a Premier League player. Whereas boxing, I don't think I do. I think I am the average Joe of knowledge. So if I was put there with a boxing person and said, right, you've got 5 minutes to just interview him, I would probably panic a little bit. So I was super nervous. And you just get even more nervous the bigger the person's name is. So when it's somebody like Bieber, you're like, oh my Lord, like, this is a very nerve-wracking experience.
How do you look back on that interview? Obviously a massive name, but like you said, you didn't manage to get a whole lot out of him. Where does that rank in your career? Is it perhaps a highlight, or?
I wouldn't say it's like a low light, that's for sure, because I think I definitely tried my best, and that's all you can do. Having watched it back, I would probably have approached it slightly different now. Even 12 months on, I feel like my interview style is a lot more relaxed and a lot more patient, whereas back then I was kind of so I think it isn't a low light. Probably not a highlight though either, and something that I'll look back on in years to come and be like, oh dear, look at the state of how young I am there.
Yeah, nice. I want to talk about a different part of LA and Venice Beach. Obviously, you said that you grew up in Devon. Beach is a massive part of your childhood. Where does it rank in terms of the best beaches you've ever been on?
Oh, what a question. What a question. Not particularly high. Not particularly high. There's a lot of Cornish beaches that trumpet 10 times over, but it's obviously very picturesque. It is very picturesque, and like the sunset there, it is phenomenal, but it's a little bit dirty. There's like a lot of not such nice people there. I didn't find it was a very nice vibe from people there, sort of like quite judgy, both in terms of like a high level and a low level. Like, I feel like there was influencers everywhere, like Instagram models looking at you and going like, oh, what are you dressed like? They're also people who were struggling to survive, being like, oh, you're here with cameras and stuff, what are you doing? So I found myself kind of quite caught in the middle. I just didn't, it wasn't my favorite beach I've ever been to, put it that way, but it's obviously very picturesque. You can see why sort of all the influencers are there taking photos and that, but it's like, again, like it's almost the perfect example of LA, because you've got all of the huge like high-end people walking down with like Gucci and Balenciaga on, and then you've got people that are like struggling to survive, which is just so sad to see. So it's a bit of a shock, again, Venice Beach, it has to be said. And it's the sort of place that I look back on now and think, would I go there again? I don't know whether I would go and seek out a trip to Venice Beach.
When it comes to booking holidays and trips away, would you say that you're more of a beach person or a city break person?
Beach. I love a beach. But in recent years, it's been more city breaks, just because of like time constraints, not being able to go on sort of like 2 weekers, being able to go on sort of a quick 4-day, 5-day away is like the current thing me and my girlfriend do a lot. So we've been doing a lot of that, and I've had some unreal city breaks recently.
What is your favourite city then?
London's my favourite city flat out in the world, definitely. Closely followed by New York. New York for me was one of the best places I've ever been to. I loved every second of being in New York. The pace, the people, the food, the music, everything about it I thought was so good. It was my first time going, and it was last year. So I just loved everything about New York.
I was going to bring that up because on your Instagram, there's a picture of you at Tom's Diner eating some pancakes. Does that bring back some positive memories?
Yeah, man, the food is so good there. Like, Tom's. I went to Cat's Delicatessen, which is obviously like well renowned, and it's actually so weird. So we go into Cat's, me and Chloe, and you take your ticket and you go around, you get your food, and you're looking for somewhere to sit. It's well renowned, Cat's. There's like loads of people there. So we just sit down at this table and we're just like eating, and we've probably been there like 20 minutes, and bloke taps me on the shoulder, and he's like, "Do you realise you're sat in the When Harry Met Sally seats?" Which is obviously the seat everybody wants to sit in. There's like the queue, and there's the big arrow. It's like the Harry Met Sally famous orgasm seat. Yeah. And we just didn't have a clue. We literally just sat down in these random seats eating our sandwich. And it took like somebody to say, by the way, this is where When Harry Met Sally was filmed. You're sat in the seat. So we would never have even realized that. We just like Googled best places to eat in New York or places you can't miss in New York or something. And that was obviously right up there on the list. And I think we'd just been shopping before that. So we got so lucky. It's absolutely ridiculous. And like the bloke behind me was a Hollywood director of some kind. And I think he directed, what had he directed? I can't remember, but he was rattling off these films. And I was like going to Chloe, I was like, this bloke behind me is like an absolutely massive name director. And he like turned around, tapped on the shoulder, was like, yeah, you're sat in the When Harry Met Sally seats. It's amazing. Ridiculous. Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously food is a massive part of why people go to New York. Do you have any hidden gems, maybe a pizza place you went to that stands out and you'd recommend?
Do you know what? There was one. I'm going to have to go on my phone to find out the name of it because I've forgotten the name of it. And I'll shout out Dave Horner here because Dave Horner is the king of food restaurants in city breaks. He has a spreadsheet with like, say New York as one of the tabs on his spreadsheet, and he'll list the names of the restaurants, a star rating, the best time of day to go, the food served, like to that level. It's honestly ridiculous. It's so good. He's an absolute genius for it. And he was like serving up burger restaurants and stuff like that. And it's just, all of them were incredible. Every single one. Obviously, Halal Guys is unreal. The street food. Yep. The street food vendors, Halal Guys, absolutely sensational. But I think it was Prince Street Pizza was unreal. Was very, very good. But yeah, maybe Halal Guys. I went to Halal Guys like 2 or 3 days, just like the street food carts that are just out of this world. But just everything about New York, man. The vibe in general, like the fashion, the music, the people, just class.
Do you reckon it's the city in the world that you would move to if you didn't live in London?
100%, no doubt. 100% New York. I'd love to live in New York if I possibly could. It does remind me of London, just because of the pace, I think, where it's just frantic, nonstop. So many different cultures there. When you're like walking through like Chinatown or in Soho or Tribeca, it's just so different. Each area, and that's what really reminded me of London. So I loved New York, probably my second favorite city ever.
Wow, nice, man. Just going back to food, is it important to you where you eat?
No, not really. Really. I like food. I like a hot dog cart as much as I like some fancy restaurants. Equally, I always think that the local food is the best food. Like in India, the curries, just never experienced anything like it. You could have a vindaloo, the heat of a korma in Goa. It's like we interpret curry so differently to how the Indians do, in that we have like a vindaloo is a set temperature. For them, that's a flavor, and they can control the temperature. So, and the naan breads and stuff, absolutely incredible over there. Or, I come from Devon, obviously, we've already talked about it. So I quite like my fish. So like, I also love whenever I go to a holiday with a beach, always eating the fish off the menu. That is like a staple for me. It's one of my favorite foods. And like Goan fish curries will probably never be beaten in terms of curries I've tried in my life.
Would you say that you're a sweet tooth or a savoury person?
Savoury, definitely. 100%. I'll go a starter over dessert every day of the week. I think desserts are the most overrated thing, man. Like, I'm with you. They're so samey. Wherever you go, in the world, it will be so samey. It will be like, oh, it's chocolate with vanilla. It's like, oh, I've had that in 15 different combinations in 15 different cities, probably. Whereas starters, and you can find so many different types of food.
Yeah.
So for me, savory every day of the week.
Yeah, because I wanted to bring up a photo of you that was on your Instagram of you. Well, there's two actually, to be fair.
Go on.
Of you eating gelato in Italy. So you must love it.
Yeah.
You must love it.
Do you know what? My girlfriend loves it more than I do, which is probably the reason I've got those photos. And also it probably like color coordinates with something that I've got on. So it's like, oh, this could make for a good photo. But yeah, my girlfriend's got a very sweet tooth. She loves ice cream and stuff. So I don't mind gelato, and I'll certainly eat a lot of sweet food, but savory every day of the week for me, man.
So your Instagram is full of photos of you in amazing places. Is there a most Instagrammable place you've ever been?
Wow, that's a class one. Obviously, I've already mentioned Venice Beach is incredibly Instagrammable. The way the sun sets, you've obviously got like the skate parks, you've got the beach there. That is like definition of Instagram friendly is Venice Beach, but it's not what I would describe as my favorite sort of Instagram place. Milan is quite Instagram friendly because you've got all the history there, same way as like Barcelona I found to be quite Instagrammable. But I'll stick with New York as the most Instagrammable place that I've ever been to, particularly, you know, on top of like the Rockefeller or on top of anywhere that's got that view of sunset downtown. 100%, I think New York for me is probably the most Instagrammable place. But maybe that's just because I'm from London. I reckon loads of Americans would say that London is really Instagrammable with like the history and the rivers and stuff. You
got some great shots in Budapest though.
Yeah.
I particularly like the one of you outside the graffiti of the football.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did you go on a graffiti street art tour?
No, literally just was, man, I was literally walking down a road, and that was a car park. It wasn't even like it was an anything. It was just a car park with this like unbelievable mural of was it? I can't remember the Instagram post. Is it Schindler?
I can't exactly remember. I think it's when Hungary beat England in some sort.
Yeah, it's the Wonder Team. I think it's the Wonder Team, and yeah, I was just like, oh my God, look at this look at this piece of work. Chloe obviously didn't have a clue what it was, but yeah, Budapest is unreal. But like, especially like bars and stuff, it's definitely Instagrammable, but it's more of a cultural. I know that people go there for the piss up and stuff and the stag do, but I went with my girlfriend and I found it to be quite, maybe it's just the way we experienced it, a little bit more historic than just bars and ruined bars left, right, centre. We obviously did them as well, but there's a lot more to Budapest than I think people give it credit to. Yeah, because it's got that stag do reputation.
Absolutely, man. Have you done much of Eastern Europe?
Where have I been? Russia, Hungary. That's probably just about it. I mean, I won't class like, I suppose you could class it, but like parts of Germany as quite Eastern European. I found Berlin to be quite Eastern European-y. And like, I didn't really enjoy Berlin when I was there. Maybe I was a little bit too young. So obviously I didn't go for like the techno scene that I probably should have gone for. But I went when I was still at school. And when I was at school, I remember thinking to myself, wow, this is really sort of Eastern Blocky, very cement, square, up and down, not an awfully pretty place. But I'm sure if I went again now, with the hindsight, with like a little bit more experience of traveling and just being a bit more adult, I think I'll probably think it's like really pretty, because loads of people go there and they're like, oh, Berlin's amazing. And obviously it's got like the techno nightlife and stuff like that I've just not experienced in Eastern Europe.
And just moving back to your Instagram, because I'm not quite done yet picking your brains. You've got, I'd say, one of the most model-centric, amazingly, the photographs you take and the photographs your girlfriend takes of you are really cool.
I nail it.
Give us some insight. How do you do it?
Oh my God. Do you know what? We always try and take really good photos when we're of each other when we're on holiday. And I think the reason is because the other person takes good photos. If you take a shit one, you either feel bad or you're like, oh, I could have done better. I don't know what it is, but we always like to take nice photos of each other when we're out there, nice photos together. But it doesn't usually take very long. It's not like we've got like ring lights and stuff like that. It's literally just an iPhone, like that. And then one of us looks at it and is like, that's rubbish.
Yeah.
Let's just change angle. It's not like we've got like setups and stuff. It's just, I think because we follow a lot of people that are very good at it, we just basically copy what they do.
Yeah.
But it's all about the lighting, man.
Is it?
That's the number one tip. It's all about the lighting. Always face the sun.
Yes. Oh, it's something I absolutely hammer on about whenever I take a photo of my girlfriend or any family members. I'm like, what are you doing?
There's nothing worse, is there, than when you give your phone to a stranger and you're like, oh, can you just take a quick photo? And you get back and you're like,
oh,
dog.
Yeah. And they only take one as well.
Oh my God, I've got to do it right. So even when people like pass me their phone, strangers, I'll be like taking like 30 photos. You've got to do it like that. Yeah, I'm sure you're the same.
100%.
It's like, so when it's your girlfriend asking you to do it, then you've got to do it even better. So I think that's like hilarious. The amount we take, it's so funny, but equally like it is what it is. I just enjoy doing it.
Yeah, and obviously from being an influencer, don't know if you like that term, but
definitely don't.
Yeah, I'm going to call you it. From being an influencer, okay, you obviously have to kind of pack out your Instagram for weeks to come. And like, let's say, for example, your trip to Edinburgh that you did this year. I'm seeing that you're kind of taking photos, and are you holding certain ones back, knowing that, okay, in the future, I'm going to use this in like weeks to come to keep my Instagram ticking over?
Not really, to be fair. I just take photos when I think it's like a cool background, or I like the outfit I'm wearing that day. I like the two general rules of thumb of when I'll take a photo. But equally, I like to post once a day. I don't even know if that's good for the algorithm. I just like hate it when people post like 8 times a day. It's just like, I'm following you. So I post once a day just to keep it ticking over. And if I've got more photos, say when we went to Edinburgh, I went to like 3 or 4 different locations and I just took some photos, or Chloe took photos of me at those locations. I don't want to spam people by posting them all in one day. So I just like save it as a draft and then post it the next day, or in a week's time if I've forgotten to post it. But there's no like plan. I just do one post a day. And then if it's a draft and I keep forgetting about it, I will do it the day I have nothing else to post.
Nice, man. A little bit of insight into how you've grown your following. I like it.
Yeah. Well, I don't really have that big a following, to be fair. I don't really know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm just guessing and doing like, I do like 10 stories in one post. That's like my goal for the day, because otherwise I just feel like I've accomplished nothing.
Every day, 10 stories?
10 stories, I'd say. Like 8 to 10 stories a day, and then one post. And the post is, my post is usually something around either like football, fashion, or like somewhere I've been or something I've done or something like that. And then my stories is more sort of like shared posts and that.
Because obviously fashion's a massive part of your life. I know that you love buying designer clothes, a lot of vintage clothes as well. Is there a particular place that you've been where the fashion of the city has stood out?
Oh,
and it can be London as well.
Really good question. Yeah, obviously London for sure. Like especially in Soho, incredible there. Some of the outfits you see are just mad. And I really like people who have their own sort of individualistic style and like, don't really care how other people dress. I think that's class. Milan, particularly, you see a lot of cool people in Milan. A lot of people that are dressed to the nines, like in proper designer gear. Like when you call my designer gear there, it's like my designer gear is like 30, 40 quid for a t-shirt. Like theirs is probably like 400. So I think, Milan's up there. Obviously LA, but only in certain parts of LA. And then New York too. New York, particularly in Chinatown. I thought there was some really like cool people in New York's Chinatown. But London, I'll give it London. I think London takes the biscuit just because there's such a culturally diverse city. I think you see so many different types of style, be it like streetwear or high-end fashion or whatever. I think you see so many different types of fashion that it's really interesting in London.
Awesome, man. I want to move us on to a place that you could always go back to.
Wow. I don't want to keep saying the same answers here. I obviously, New York is like amazing. Barcelona maybe too. I loved Barcelona, and I was only there for a weekend. Very, very cool city. Because it's obviously got like the city element and it's got the beach. And sadly, I never went to the beach. I didn't go to Las Ramblas, which is like obviously one of the key areas to go because I was there for such a short stay. Yeah, the beach is amazing, is it?
No, I've never been. I've been 3 times to Barcelona. I've never been to the beach, so I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. So obviously I went there with work, and I went to La Masia, which is the Barca training ground, and then I like trained at La Masia, which is a really cool element. Then We interviewed Eric Abidal, then went to the new camp, and that was kind of my trip there. So it was like all football, really. But nevertheless, amazing city. I just thought the atmosphere was wicked. The football stadium, I judge a lot of cities on their football stadiums, and the new camp is a special place, like a special stadium. You know, you go to some cities and you're like, even the good state, even like the big stadiums, you're like, oh, it's like modern, it's soulless. The new camp is the opposite. It's like dug into the turf, like must be like 90,000 odd capacity. And I also saw Messi score a hat trick, which helps.
Yeah, nice, man. I was going to bring that up because obviously you're so lucky to see Messi play first of all, and then to see him get a hat trick as well. What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, watching Messi, have you watched Messi live?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, twice.
He's like nothing you've ever seen before, isn't he? He walks a lot. That's what I took away from it. He's kind of walking around the pitch, and then when he gets the ball at his feet, he speeds up 100 times. And it's like no football you've ever seen, because most footballers obviously chasing back, sprinting around the pitch. Messi seems to conserve all of his energy for like moments in the game. That's certainly what I saw anyway when he scored the hat against Man City. But awesome experience, because we were sat like 5 rows behind the managers as well.
Wow.
Which is almost at pitch level at the new camp. But we had like Abidal and stuff behind us. So we were like, oh, we got better seats than Abidal. It was like on the beers and stuff. It was great. The new camp's just, what a stadium. It's unreal, man.
Yeah. So you've seen Messi off your football bucket list.
Yeah.
Is there anything still on there that you want to achieve?
In terms of travel?
It could be anything. So, for example, obviously we're coming to the end of the year of Messi, Ronaldo. I've still not seen Ronaldo play a proper game.
Really?
I've seen him play. I saw him play against Iceland in the Euros in that group stage game where it was 0-0. It was just dead. So for me, that's still top of my bucket list. See Ronaldo play. What about for you?
Yeah, I mean, I saw Ronaldo. I've seen Ronaldo quite a few times, to be fair, playing for Man United. And I think most recently, I actually saw him in the Champions League final live against Juventus.
Okay, yeah.
When Mandzukic scored the overhead kick. And I think Ronaldo scored in that game, actually, the Champions League final. That was the most recent time I saw him live. So he was a little bit older then as well. Still incredible. Not one of the best players I've seen live, though. It's really weird to say that. Like, Messi stands out. The most impressive player I've ever seen play live is Thiago. I've never seen anything like it on a football pitch. Thiago, like Cristiano, you can appreciate his physical ability, and he's obviously so powerful. That's what the sense you get when you watch him live. But Thiago, it's like watching a magician. It was like watching a bloke who was playing the game on an Xbox. He had a get ball on a bit of string. He could just do whatever he wanted with it, and he ripped Chelsea apart. It was actually last year.
Oh yeah,
and no, it might have been. Was it this year they played with the Allianz at the Stamford Bridge game? I think it was this year or last year.
Was it 4-0?
Whenever they absolutely smashed them about 4-0, And Thiago was just obscene, and so watching him live was pretty special. I also sadly, I saw Mbappe. And I feel like I'm a good luck charm for some of these players, because I saw Mbappe and he scored 4 goals in 8 minutes against Lyon.
Wow.
In like a 5-0 demolition. And I was in with like the ultras in the PSG end. And it was unreal.
Yeah.
One of the best football atmospheres I've ever experienced, flat out at the Parc des Princes. And he just was an absolutely ridiculous footballer. But no, I don't know, man. You know, maybe seeing Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll happen. I will see him live, but seems a special player that I've got to see play, because the reason I want to see him is because he seems so unique. Like, I feel like I've seen a lot of footballers do a lot of things, but Haaland's size and his ability with his feet make him really unique. So I'm excited to see Haaland. And is there anyone that's kind of dropping off? It's a bit of a shame I never saw Buffon. I'd like to have seen Buffon. Yeah. In fact, did I see Buffon? I think I've seen Buffon. You might have done. Yeah, you might have done it. The Champions League final. Yeah, I think I have seen it. What am I talking about? I don't know. Yeah, Haaland maybe. Yeah. Haaland. You know what? With that Champions League final, was that the one where you and Dave went to Cardiff? Yeah. You know what, Joe? I think that was the first time I ever met you. Really? What, in Dirty Harry's in the bar? Yeah, that's it. Dirty Harry's. It was like ridiculous bar, wasn't it? And Jackson was absolutely battered. Yeah, and you had to go you left at like 9 o'clock to get that train to go the next day. Yeah, and he was in a bad way, man. He was hanging out the taxi on the way to Paddington, hanging out the window, and then like on the train, he was so drunk. It was absolutely hilarious. So we spoke about a place you could always go back to. What about a place you would never go back to? Difficult one. Really difficult one. I was thinking about this question when you sent over some of the like sort of ideas for this podcast, and I was thinking to myself, my worst, I think, weekend trip I've ever experienced was Paris.
Okay.
Which is a bit of a controversial one because obviously everybody loves Paris, or it's like seen as like the lover's city, whatever. I've actually been 2 or 3 times to Paris. I don't think I've had a good trip there yet.
Okay.
I went with Chloe for like a weekend. It was awful. It was rained the whole time. Like it was so touristy, I felt. We nearly got mugged. It was not very nice at all. Then I went to watch Mbappe. Arc de France was better, but still outside of football. Like football in Paris, awesome. Like if you get the chance to go and watch PSG at home, go and watch PSG at home because those fans are insane. But as soon as you come away from it, I just felt it was a bit flat. I don't know, not my favorite city, and a lot of people love it. So I wouldn't be in a rush to go back there. But having said that, I might have just had a bad experience. You know, you can just like sometimes, especially on a weekend trip, you're like, if one day's bad, it almost ruins it. So we had like 2 bad days and it kind of just kills it. So I'll say Paris.
Yeah. You spoke about nearly getting mugged. Did you see the ball and cup game on the streets?
Yeah, man, I did. It was around that area we nearly got mugged.
Did you get suckered in?
No, I can't. For that exact reason, I don't do that sort of stuff. Is that I will get suckered in, and I know I'm going to lose money. But it was nearly in that area, and it was sort of just like grabbed. I think they just grabbed Chloe's wrists.
Really?
Or something like that, and like immediately, like it is like a problem. And we'd only been there like 2 hours. I was like, oh no,
that's gonna scar. That's gonna scar it, surely.
But I'm sure I'll go back again soon, and it will be like amazing, and I'll be raving about it. My opinion changes so quick.
Yeah. Well, if you do go back, definitely don't play the ball in the cup game, because I did that when I went. And I lost €80.
You're an idiot.
Playing that game.
How do you do that?
I am. Yeah, for people who don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know. I was like 18. So I went with my mate and they're playing this game and they're like moving the ball out the cup and they're showing you, okay, the ball's under this cup, put 20 quid down. And then, if you get the ball like correct, you get 20 quid. So little did I know, I'm surrounded by people who are all in on this. Yeah. And they're all like going, oh, okay, ball's under there. You can see it. And I'm like deliberating.
The money,
yeah. And I've gone, okay, €40. Yeah. I can see it's under the cup. It's 40 quid. It's going to be the easiest money I've ever earned. And then, obviously, lo and behold, I've turned around to like speak to someone else and they've just switched it over, give the 40 quid over and I just lose it. And I've just got this scar in Paris.
Mate, that's horrible though, isn't it? I hate stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, when you get done over in a foreign country in particular, where you feel a bit out of control as it is.
I just remember being 18. You know, when you're 18 and like 80 quid is like so much money. To the point where you're like, I was fuming just walking around the metro of Paris, just losing my head.
I can imagine you losing your head in Paris as well to a cup game.
So obviously that's a negative element of travel, but is there a holiday that means the most to you?
Wow, it's such a tough one. Some of my family holidays when I was younger to places like Turkey and Spain were pretty special. Ibiza when I was 18, I guess means quite a lot. Went with my best friends. That was like our send off before we all parted ways for university or stayed in Exeter or did whatever we had to do. Going to Ibiza with them, that was a pretty special one. Do you know what? I'll tell you one that I don't think it's not heralded as the best holiday destination, but Dubai. Dubai, I went with Chloe, was a pretty special holiday. Just because of the city's obviously not got much culture and stuff. Like it's not that sort of holiday. I think if you're going to Dubai for culture, you're not going to the right place. Like we just went there for like 2 weeks of just pure relaxation, and that is the place to do that. You will not find many places that are more just sort of like, okay, what do you need? Like hotel, pool, like nice weather. It's really good, but there's not like loads to do culturally. It's kind of like nightlife isn't that massive because obviously it's a Middle Eastern country, so it's not a thing to do out there, like drinking and stuff like that because of the religion. But you can go out there and have a really nice time. The only thing is it's expensive. It's like London or New York prices. But I really loved Dubai. I thought it was a wicked holiday and I'd go back there in a heartbeat.
Awesome, man. And then the final question, we've spoken about your football bucket list, but is there a bucket list place which has always been top for you?
Oh, this question, I was thinking about it in the build up to this. Really, really tough answer. I'd imagine like a lot of people said like the Maldives and stuff, like obviously like nice, relaxed destination. Where did Smithy say?
Smithy said that seeing the Northern Lights.
Seeing the Northern Lights? That's quite a cute one. What, in Iceland?
Yeah, and Woodsy said the same as well.
Did she? I'll say Chicago or Detroit.
Okay.
One of those one of those. Do I have to pick one, or can I just pick those two?
Oh, you can have two, man. There are no rules here.
I'll take Chicago and Detroit then. Like, just would love to go and experience some of the musical culture.
Yeah.
Like from where it kind of found its roots, that I love, like house music and techno and stuff, and really like experience a festival back home where it all started. I'd love to do that. Or, you know what, go back to Berlin and have an actual stab at some of the techno nightlife down there. I think those sort of places where I could, let loose a bit, it would be good fun.
Quality, man. Well, hopefully we can travel again soon and you can tick those off.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Unlock the doors, Bozza.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Joe. You've been quality, man. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
No worries, buddy. Anytime.
Top man.
Anytime.